A big shout out to my patron of the channel, Goran Carlson. Thank you, Goran. I'm not sure if I pronounced your name there correctly. I'm pretty sure I didn't. But thank you for sending through this link, which our subscribers, I think, need to know about. Toyota is ranked worst among global car makers for decarbonisation, according to a Greenpeace report released just a few days ago. Hello, my friends. You're watching The Electric Viking. My name is Sam Evans. Welcome to the channel. Fantastic to have you here today. Thank you for subscribing, liking, and commenting. Now, obviously, point of this channel is for me to share with you the important things going on in the industry and then give you my take on that news. And then what I want to know is, what's your take on what's happening? So make sure you leave a comment below based on what you think is going on here. Now, unsurprisingly, Toyota once again ranks worst when it comes to, well, doing the right thing. In new research from Greenpeace East Asia, which analysed the world's top 10 automakers' decarbonisation efforts, ranking Daimler, Ford, General Motors, Honda, Hyundai and Kia, Nissan, Renault, Stellantis, Toyota and Volkswagen, unsurprisingly, Toyota came dead last. None of the companies plan to phase out internal combustion engines earlier than 2035, which would make achieving the 1.5 Celsius climate goal very difficult, and 7 out of 10 automobile groups, Daimler, Ford, Nissan, Renault, Stellantis, Toyota and Volkswagen, do not have a complete ICE phase-out date in any market for their main brands. Now, I believe that the CEO of Volkswagen, Herbert Diess, wants to phase out ICE before 2030, but is meeting a bit of resistance within the company. They're trying to fire him right now. I made a video about them trying to fire him. I'll put a link to that video in the description below. The Glasgow COP listed accelerating the transition to electric vehicles as one of 4 key actions for governments today. Being a global automobile manufacturing hub, Japan's new government needs to speed up this transition. However, its multinational car maker Toyota has no action nor intention to end the sales of ICE vehicles, and I might add is actively trying to stop their adoption in China and their encouraged adoption by the Japanese government and by America and everywhere all over the world. In fact, they're campaigning against electric vehicles pretty much non-stop, said Greenpeace East Asia Auto Industry Senior Project Manager Ada Kong. Now that last part I added in, of course, with emphasis on Toyota basically trying to stop adoption of EVs because they've said if we adopt EVs, it will decimate the Japanese auto industry and decimate Toyota. So in other words, we must all not adopt EVs because otherwise Toyota is screwed. Now, for you people on here, I know you still exist. There's not a lot of you on this channel, but there are on other channels who love Toyota. Toyota themselves, listen to me here. Come on, please listen. Now, I can see your comments. I see them everywhere. No, Toyota are just going to pivot at the last minute to just take advantage of the situation. They're going to make amazing electric cars. They're just going to copy everyone else, but do it better. But they're going to come in and when everyone wants them, and that's when they're going to do it. And Toyota have a plan. Trust me, they have a plan. No, they do not. The CEO of Toyota said, if EVs are adopted in the way that they are going to be, Toyota is screwed. He said that. So no, they don't have a plan for EVs. Sorry. Now, the analysts compared the top 10 car makers on the criteria of ICE vehicle phase-out, supply chain decarbonisation, and resource sustainability practices in the past 5 years. ICE vehicle phase-out is weighted 80% to represent the contribution of fuel combustion to a vehicle's life cycle emissions. Makes a lot of sense. Between 2016 and 2020, Toyota, Honda, and Ford sold the least number of electric cars in proportion to their total sales, averaging less than 0.12% annually. Kind of crazy when you consider the fact that Toyota actually made an electric car 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, in fact, the RAV4 electric vehicle. Now, although Renault and General Motors sold the highest number of battery electric vehicles and fuel cell vehicles last year, almost no fuel cell vehicles, by the way, this was still less than 5%, far from General Motors' aspiration to sell 100% zero tailpipe emission light-duty vehicles by 2035. Now, as you all know on here, most of you are smart enough to know that this is correct when I say it. if General Motors does take that long to phase out petrol-powered vehicles and does go ahead with their plan that only 40% of their cars in 2030 will be EVs, then they are screwed. They will go bankrupt because there is just no other alternative. I don't think that will happen. I think that they will pivot and recognize the error of their ways. I mean, come on, look at it. Right now. Rivian, 55,000 pre-orders for electric pickup truck. Ford, 170,000 pre-orders for their electric pickup truck. Tesla, 1.35 million pre-orders for their electric pickup truck. How many pre-orders do they have for their petrol pickup trucks? Last year, zero tire pop emission vehicles still merely made up 3% of global sales. The auto manufacturers are too slow while the climate can't wait. The top car makers should shoulder the responsibility to end fossil fuel consumption as soon as possible, said Kong. Now, what I've got to add here is, I just saw an article today showing Denmark's electric car sales were 30% last month. I just saw an article today showing Norway's electric car sales were over 90% this month. I just saw an article today showing the Netherlands' electric car sales have gone crazy. Electric car sales have gone crazy in Germany, in Sweden, in China. Electric car sales were 17% of the market, going up every single month. So, if all these car companies that we just talked about are not making or making very, very few electric cars right now, who is getting all these sales of these new electric cars? Top automakers need to phase out ICE vehicles to exist. That's not what they say here, but it's obvious. In major markets by 2030 in order to keep the world within 1.5 Celsius global temperature rise. And this should happen by 2028 in Europe. To deliver the best potential impact of a transition to EVs, governments have a role to ensure the drastic increase in the supply of renewable energy and electricity generation. Ultimately, automakers will need to rethink their business model, which at the moment is set on profiting just from selling more cars at an ever faster pace. Now, fortunately, customers don't want a petrol vehicle or a diesel, gas vehicle, whatever you want to call it, if they can get an electric vehicle with a decent range for the same price. And that is already the case in China. And this is not just one isolated example. There's more than 300 electric car makers in China, and most of them are selling electric cars on parity with petrol vehicles. This same situation will replicate itself in the rest of the world within the next few years. And if these manufacturers are not on board, they are simply screwed because people will not be buying their vehicles. That is a fact. Now, I recommend you get on board with the hashtag drive change movement. I'm not a big fan of hashtags, but let's be honest. Let's tell Toyota and global automakers to end fossil fuel cars. We're trying to save them from themselves, really, aren't we? Let's try and save them from themselves. Let's try and save their workers. Let's try and keep the workers with a job. So I'll put a link in the description below. You can sign the form which says demand Toyota and global automakers change now. The more of us that do it, the better. If we get a few million, well, that sends them a strong message. If they haven't already been sent a strong enough message from all the electric car sales over the last few months, I mean, I don't know how they couldn't have been, how they couldn't have woken up by now to smell the roses. But it seems as though they haven't, to be honest, because frankly, these latest electric car from Toyota is just a compliance car. They don't plan on making very many of them. So I'll put a link in the description below to the Demand Toyota and Global Automakers Change Now petition. If you can, go ahead and sign it. Love your support. Thanks for watching the channel. Thanks for supporting the movement towards sanity. Stay awesome. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you again on the next video. Bye-bye.